Good morning, everybody. And on behalf of the entire St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, good morning and welcome. You're at the Emergency Communication and Training Center. On behalf of all my partner agencies, which you'll get a little bit more of a formal introduction here shortly, that represent, of course, our entire Northeast Florida Intercept Task Force. Thank you for joining us this morning as we celebrate the successes of the first year of the Intercept Task Force. The fight against human trafficking and child exploitation is dangerous, disturbing, and extremely difficult. Human trafficking has been identified as the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, second only to drug trafficking. The men and women who represent the Intercept Task Force, who dedicate themselves every day to rescuing victims of human trafficking and child exploitation, are truly the real heroes. You'll meet some of those today and hear the extraordinary stories we're going to discuss. Today we will simply provide a glimpse into the task force operations over the last year. But there is more work to be done, and we are just getting started. We are truly just getting started. I now like to introduce the chairman of the executive board for the Intercept Task Force, Under Sheriff Ron Lenve of the Clay County Sheriff's Office. Under Sheriff.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us. As you heard, I'm Ron Lenve, the Clay County Under Sheriff and also the chairman of the executive board for the Northeast Florida Intercept Task Force. And we're here today to highlight the accomplishments of the men and women on this task force during their first year of operation. I'm proud to be joined by a distinguished list of guests today, which includes 5 of Florida's Northeast sheriffs. We have Michelle Cook from Clay County, Gator Deloach from Putnam County, Rob Hardwick from St. Johns County, Bill Leeper from Nassau County, and T.K. Waters from Duval County. We also have FDLE SAC for the Jacksonville office, Mike Williams, Homeland Security Investigations ASAC, Nick Ingenio, Operation Lightshine COO, Brian Waite, State Representative Sam Garrison, U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, Roger Handberg, State's Attorney R.J. Larissa is with us as well, and President of the Tim Tebow Foundation, Steve Biondo. Back on March 2nd of 2023, we announced the launch of the Northeast Florida Intercept Task Force. Intercept stands for the Interagency Child Exploitation and Persons Trafficking Task Force. This is a unique public-private partnership dedicated to shining a light of hope into the dark underworld of human trafficking and child sexual exploitation. Today we're here to talk about what we've accomplished during that first year of task force operations. Here in Northeast Florida, we have great law enforcement relationships among our local, state, and federal partners. Our task force is comprised of staff from Homeland Security Investigations, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and 5 regional sheriff's offices to include Clay, Jacksonville, Nassau, Putnam, and St. Johns. We have 7 law enforcement agencies who've committed full-time investigators and resources to work together in the same office to attack this issue holistically from a regional standpoint. This partnership has erased jurisdictional boundaries and barriers to investigating and prosecuting those who manipulate and victimize our young and vulnerable. What also makes this effort unique is the public-private partnership that supports our efforts. The Northeast Florida Intercept Task Force, formed in collaboration with Operation Lightshine, which is a nonprofit organization that provides financial, technical, and other resources to law enforcement task forces dedicated to the fight to human trafficking and child exploitation. The Tim Tebow Foundation, which needs no introduction here in Northeast Florida, has also been a key partner in this endeavor from the very beginning. The focus of Intercept is human trafficking and online sexual exploitation of children. Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or a commercial sex act from another. The key element in human trafficking cases is not the movement of the victim, but rather the exploitation of that victim. The online sexual exploitation of children manifests itself in various forms, from online enticement to the distribution of child sexual abuse material to sextortion. Online enticement involves an individual communicating with a child over the internet with the intent to commit a sexual offense. Offenders who traffic in child sexual abuse material share photo and video files across the internet and dark web, re-victimizing the child each time the images of their abuse are shared. Sextortion occurs when a minor has shared an explicit image of themselves with someone they mistakenly trusted, who then blackmails them to produce additional sexual content, meet for sexual activity, or pay to keep their images from being shared. The disturbing reality is that the web-based platforms and applications we use every day to connect with each other and to share information, including social media, online gaming, and email, are all used for these illegal and illicit purposes. To put these issues into local context, I want to share the results of a lot of hard work by the women and men assigned to the Intercept Task Force during the first year of operation in 2023. And you can see some of what I'm going to discuss on the screen over my left shoulder. As it pertains to child sexual exploitation and human trafficking, the agents and detectives initiated 583 investigations last year. During the course of those investigations, 85 search warrants were served. The search warrants targeted evidence collection from residences, businesses, electronic devices, and even suspect DNA. In addition to these search warrants, hundreds of subpoenas have been served for records related to these investigations. Many of the cases I have noted continue to be under investigation or are still working their way through various phases of state and federal prosecution and are not yet complete. However, we do have some impressive results to report on our child exploitation and human trafficking cases. A total of 31 arrests have been made on these cases, with an additional 16 indictments. This has led thus far to 21 convictions of defendants, with 18 of them currently being sentenced, so far to a total of 148 years in prison, plus an additional life sentence. This is just the tip of the iceberg from our early cases. These numbers will continue to grow as investigations and prosecutions progress towards completion. None of this work would be possible without outstanding forensic lab support. In 2023, Intercept members received a total of 663 cyber tips for investigation from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. A total of 224 electronic devices were examined for evidence. Over 6.3 million images and videos were reviewed, and almost 75,000 of those were found to contain child sexual abuse material. Intercept has also taken on additional types of cases in augmentation of our core child exploitation and human trafficking mission. Intercept assisted regional law enforcement agencies with their proactive chat operations during 2023, hunting for those seeking out children online for sexual encounters. That support assisted our partners with an additional 53 arrests, and another 8 arrests have been made on cases as diverse as sexual battery, video voyeurism, bestiality, and the distribution of Animal Crush videos. That's enough information from me for now. I would like to invite a few of our key partners up to speak with you today about this initiative. And first up is Operation Light Shine Chief Operating Officer Brian Waite. Brian?
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Good morning, everybody. As you mentioned, my name is Brian Waite, and I have the absolute honor and privilege to serve as the COO at Operation Light Shine. And our core goal is to establish and help equip, empower, and educate communities and law enforcement with the essential tools and resources they need to make a tangible impact in this fight. We truly have the honor and privilege to stand beside you, the true heroes. For us as an organization, it's not about us, the amount of money we're raising, or the things that we're doing, but it's about standing back in the shadows, putting you guys in the front, and showing your communities what you guys are doing, how you are doing, the impacts that you are making. We truly believe that unity and all of us coming together is how we're going to truly make a difference in this fight. And the willingness for all these partners just to come together under one roof with one mission, right, to make an impact, to save a kid, to put a predator behind bars, is what it's all about. It's not about each department. It's not about what they're doing, but what we're all doing together. So I feel very weird standing here in front of all you guys because you guys are true heroes. But generally, from our organization to you and to our Intercept Task Force, 2023 was amazing. We appreciate you. But 2024 is going to be even better. And we cannot wait to see what we continue to do in this community. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Brian. Next up. Next up is State Representative Sam Garrison.
Thank you, Ron, and Sheriff. On behalf of Speaker Renner, Speaker Designate Perez, and my colleagues in the legislature, thank you for what you do. Last year, we were able to secure over $1 million in state funds to put together a state-of-the-art multi-agency forensic center that's really the hub of what we're doing. I think that goes to illustrate the emphasis of the importance of what we're doing, and certainly thanks to the governor also. We can pass it, but if he doesn't veto it, that's kind of an important aspect in the process. That appropriation highlights the importance that we are placing as a legislature on the safety of our kids. Not just in terms of these things, but you saw it this year with the recent legislation that was passed in Jacksonville, where technology is a wonderful thing, but these things, while they make life good, also provide real challenges for parents and kids, especially those who may not have the support and structure that some of us have been blessed with in our lives. So we're going to continue to do this. This has been a focus not just in the last couple of years, but going forward. In Florida, our brand is family. We believe in a culture of life, and we believe that every life and every child matters. And we're going to fight for those kids that are especially the ones that are forgotten, the ones that find themselves in this type of situation. So thank you for what you're doing. I would be remiss if I didn't say specific thank you to my friend and colleague, Representative Baker, who's here in the front. She's a prosecutor in St. Johns County. Has been a warrior on these issues. So Jessica, thank you. You should be standing up here instead of me, but thank you for what you do, and we really appreciate it. On behalf of all of us in the legislature, thank you all what you do. We love y'all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Garrison. Next up is U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, Roger Hardwick.
Well, thank you very much, Under Sheriff, and thank you, sheriffs and board members, for having me here today. It was great to be here about a year ago, and it's really great to see the results of this task force and what they've accomplished over the last year. So my name is Roger Hardwick. As the United States Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, I serve as the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer for 35 counties in Florida. I've been a federal prosecutor for over 20 years. From my experience, I know that my office has long been committed to working with our law enforcement partners to aggressively investigate and prosecute dangerous human traffickers and child sex predators who seek to exploit some of the most vulnerable members of our society. For the past year, my office has had the privilege of working with the Northeast Florida Intercept Task Force to protect those victims and to bring offenders to justice. There's much that I could say about the dedication of the investigators and prosecutors who tackle these disturbing and often heartbreaking cases. But today, I'll simply say to them, thank you. Thank you for the hard work that you do. Thank you for the long hours and late nights that you put into investigating your cases. I'm sure that as I speak that there are detectives and agents who couldn't be here to attend this event today because they're too busy building up new cases to bring. Thank you for what you are doing, and know that you and your work are appreciated. They're appreciated by me, they're appreciated by my office, and they're appreciated by the highest levels of the United States Department of Justice. The work that you are doing is saving lives, and it's resulting in victims being rescued and offenders being brought to justice. There's a phrase that we often hear, which is someone's going to hit the ground running. And I would just want everyone to take a moment to really appreciate the statistics that are displayed here today, because what this shows is that the Northeast Florida Intercept Task Force did not hit the ground running. They hit the ground sprinting. These are really incredible results to do in a year when you're standing up a task force. Let me just highlight a couple of the cases to give you an appreciation of some of the incredible work that this task force has done. I'm going to talk about three of them. The first case involved a softball coach. Andrew Overheel was coaching girls softball in Clay County and had his team over for a swim party after a game. A 12-year-old girl from the softball team was taking a shower after swimming in the pool and noticed that her coach's cell phone appeared to be recording her. The young girl called her parents, and her parents responded immediately and picked her up. And thankfully, her parents notified the Clay County Sheriff's Office, who took immediate action. Investigators were able to interview Overheel, seize his phone, and obtain a search warrant for it. But that was not the end of this case. The investigators who work on the Intercept Task Force, well, they're thorough, they're meticulous, and they follow up on each and every lead, and that's exactly what they did in this case. The search of Overheel's phone led to the execution of a search warrant at his residence, where numerous electronic devices were seized. Searches of those devices resulted in the discovery of hundreds of videos and images of young girls, videos that had been taken secretly, just like the one the defendant had taken of the 12-year-old girl. Overhill was federally indicted and arrested for the production and attempted production of sexually explicit images and making them. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison to be followed by a lifetime of supervised release. The second case I want to talk about involved a police officer. Alejandro Carmeco Fonseca was an officer with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office when he approached a 16-year-old high school student at a local gym. He got the student's Snapchat account and started sending messages and videos exposing himself to the student. The 16-year-old told his parents, and they did like happened in the other case. They did the right thing. They notified law enforcement. We often hear the phrase, if you see something, say something. Well, I can tell you, all of the agencies up here, if you see something, say something, they will do something. And that's what they did in this case. An investigator assumed the Snapchat account of the student and continued communicating with the defendant, which built the case that led to his federal indictment and arrest. He pleaded guilty to attempted online enticement of a minor and was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, to be followed by 15 years of supervised release. The final case involved a defendant who attempted to entice a child to meet him for sex. Wayne Kevins was not successful in those efforts, but as we often see, he was able to coerce the child to produce images of child sexual abuse material and send those images to him. I mentioned before, the investigators on these cases, they're thorough, they're meticulous, and they follow up on each and every lead. When they did that in this case, the investigators discovered what they often discover in these cases, which is the defendant had another victim, a child he had been physically and sexually abusing for years. Cavins was federally indicted, and he pleaded guilty to attempted online enticement of a minor, and he was sentenced to life in federal prison. And I could go on and on. You can see from the statistics that are in front of you, this is just a sample of the many, many cases that have been done by the Intercept Task Force. And these cases are a great example of the outstanding work being accomplished through the partnership that you see here in front of you between all of these agencies, my colleague R.J. Larissa in his office at the State Attorney's Office, State Attorney Melissa Nelson's office, and my office. We are all dedicated in commitment to doing this work and doing it together. So I want to thank all of the members of the Intercept Task Force for everything they've been doing to investigate and prosecute human trafficking and child exploitation cases. And we look forward to prosecuting those cases in federal court. And I know I can speak for the state attorneys who are working on these cases as well, that they will prosecute them in state court as well. It is only by working together in this way that we can truly address the problem of human trafficking and child exploitation in Northeast Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanberg. And I think it's important to point out that this isn't a task force, although there are some impressive numbers on that sheet about the numbers. It's about the end result in working through to put these cases together and make them as tight as possible so that when we get them to the prosecution phase, that holds. And we appreciate our partners both at the state and federal levels and everything that they're doing to support us. Next up, I have Steve Biondo, who is the president of the Tim Tebow Foundation. Steve?
On behalf of Tim and the entire board of the Tim Tebow Foundation and our team, as well as I do represent a massive community of donors who care about what you are doing. In fact, the fight that you are leading is to them one of the most important areas of opportunity for their generosity. When they hear about what you're doing, how you're coming together, they rally to bring resources to the Tim Tebow Foundation so that we can serve you guys. So I represent a vast army of people who care about what you are doing, who know what you are doing, and are responding with their generosity because you enable their hearts for victims to be acted on. You put all of it into motion. You put it all into motion. In fact, what we describe you as to our community is you guys are hope carriers. And you deliver hope on a daily basis to the victims that you rescue. And we don't want you to ever lose sight of that. We know that the work that you do is daunting. It's grueling. You see images, you see criminality, you see evil up close, you look into their eyes, and it is daunting to have to continue to fight against evil. It requires energy. It requires commitment. It requires sacrifice, summoning courage. But your work rescues a life. It changes a generation. You guys carry hope to those who often don't have hope. A recent case came our way, and a task force conducted an operation, and they were able to rescue a 12-year-old victim here in the state of Florida. When they peeled back all the facts on that 12-year-old victim, they discovered that from the age of 2 to 12, she was horrifically raped and abused by her very own father. Our case manager called me and shared with me that incredible rescue. And she said this to me. She said, "Tonight, that precious child will sleep safe." And that's what you do. That's what you do on a daily basis. And our prayer, and we pray over y'all. We pray over you all on a daily basis because we know it is so daunting. It's that you never grow weary of the task, that you remember how important it is that you are saving lives, bringing hope, executing hope. In fact, you guys are such a mighty tool that we consider you sent by the Lord. We consider you gifts from the Lord to these victims, because all these promises that God has made to victims of criminality and abuse and oppression, you fulfill. He promises to the oppressed and to victims he will defend them, lift them up, execute justice on their behalf, make them a home, not forget them. That's what you do. That's what you do. And so thank you for coming together. The most powerful statistic up there for me is the first line, our team. Our fourth non-negotiable is that there is power when we come together. And you guys demonstrate that. Cross jurisdictions for the sake of one more life, for the sake of one more victim. So thank you. And we just pray a very specific prayer that you continue to see not only the victim, but that you're able to embrace the joy in being defenders of life. We know that's daunting, and there's a burden that you have to carry. Thank you to so many of your spouses, by the way. They often are forgotten, but their sacrifice is important as well. But you guys have to carry burdens. But we pray that you see through the burden and through the criminality and through the evil to the joy of releasing victims into a free life, into a safe place, and to a place where they can flourish and thrive. That's what you do. You guys lay your lives down. You put the interest of others ahead of your own. So you are noble, and we are grateful for that. We are privileged to serve alongside of you. Our commitment is to continue to find resources across the globe to bring into the fight to make your jobs easier, more efficient, so that you can get to more of those precious victims. So our prayers are over you for the sake of one more victim. And let's just continue to work together until all are free. Thank you all for what you do.
Thank you, Steve. And I think you hit on a good point. You know, the line that shows our team up there, it's important for everybody in the room to realize nobody owns this task force. This doesn't belong to a particular agency. It wasn't started by a particular agency. It comes out of those that you see up here. These agency executives formed a board together to put this together. So this is a true group effort and a team, not just spearheaded by a particular agency. Intercept's work to combat these crimes is difficult, dangerous, detail-oriented, and very technical, but it's absolutely vital to keeping our young and vulnerable safe from exploitation. All the partners you see here today are committed to working together as the Intercept Task Force to amplify our successes, erase jurisdictional boundaries, and take a regional approach to protecting the vulnerable in Northeast Florida. We're also putting out a call to action to all of the residents of Northeast Florida. Specifically, we're asking you to report any information about human trafficking, child sexual abuse, or the trafficking in child sexual abuse material to law enforcement. Resources for reporting this information are scrolling on the screens just outside the doors to this auditorium, and for those that got folders, those resources are in that folder for you as well. Thank you for joining us today as we look back upon the first year of work by the Intercept Task Force. Please feel free to speak with any of the officials you see here today. In addition, we have presentations in 2 breakout rooms that'll be just out and down the hall here. The first room has film clips related to the Intercept Task Force and Operation Lightshine for those who may desire more information. In a second room down that same hallway, Agent Ben Ludke of Homeland Security Investigations will be sharing information on a soon-to-be-released Department of Homeland Security National Public Awareness Campaign to educate and empower families in the fight against online child sexual exploitation. And in closing, I want to finish with an excerpt from one of our victims' impact statements that was read at the defendant's sentencing in court. She said, and I'm putting this in quotes, "It's hard to focus in class when your mind has so much going through it. Trying to get help from the teachers and counselors, but they have so much work and other students to deal with, it makes you feel helpless trying to cope and get through school. Having anxiety that someone will take advantage of you again. I'm going to counseling, but this is something that will take time to heal from. It takes away from the time I could be at school and work. It killed my drive I had for life and ruined my love for going outside in nature. The images made me feel disgusted because at the age I was, so insecure about my weight. It takes a lot of willpower to not go back into the dark place you fought to get out of. Still, it will take time to get back to my happy self. It's a battle that I will continue to fight so that I can get back up soon and share my story with young boys and girls who are going through a similar situation so they know they're not alone and it just makes you stronger in the long run." And that's the end of the quote. So these cases can be difficult to investigate and prosecute, but that's why we do it. That victim statement right there. There's no higher calling than protecting those who are vulnerable among us, and we're committed to that cause. So we thank you all for joining us today, and once again, feel free to stick around for questions with anybody that you see here and take part in the breakout rooms down the hall. Thank you.